Welcome to a journey back in time, as we explore 50 mind-blowing historical curiosities you probably didn't know about. Embark on this adventure through time, where we will reveal the hidden, the fun, and the downright strange. Our first stop is ancient Egypt, where pharaohs were forced to wear false beards which represented their divine connection with the gods. It didn't matter if you were a man or a woman, a beard was essential. Have you ever heard the saying, "Let them eat cake"? It is attributed to Marie Antoinette, but there is no solid evidence that she ever said it. This quote was first found in Jean-Jacques Rousseau's autobiography, written when Antoinette was just a child. Did you know that the Great Wall of China is not visible from space? It's a popular myth, but astronauts have confirmed that without help, the wall is invisible, proving that size isn't everything. In the 18th century, you could pay admission to London Zoo by bringing a cat or dog to feed the lions. Yes, you heard that right. Talk about a pet swap. Let's move on to the Vikings. Contrary to popular belief, they did not wear horned helmets. This image was created for a 19th century Wagner opera. Real Vikings would have been less theatrical but equally fierce. Have you ever thought about why the Middle Ages were called that? It was because scholars saw this period as a barren era between the fall of Rome and the Renaissance. A Middle Age indeed. Speaking of the Renaissance, contrary to popular belief, Michelangelo did not lie on his back to paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. He built a unique scaffolding system and painted while standing. Did you know that the shortest war in history was between Great Britain and Zanzibar on August 27, 1896? Zanzibar surrendered after 38 minutes. A quick victory for Great Britain. Here's a fun fact about the legendary Cleopatra. She was not Egyptian. She was actually of Greek descent, although she was the first in her family to learn the Egyptian language. Have you ever heard of a war that was fought over a bucket? In 1325, two Italian city-states fought the Battle of the Bucket, where Modena stole a bucket from Bologna, leading to great shame and full-scale war. Roman gladiators were vegetarians and drank an ash tonic after training as a form of medicine. The film industry was wrong. In ancient Greece, throwing an apple at someone was considered a marriage proposal. Hopefully they didn't throw it too hard. The shortest-serving American president was William Henry Harrison, who died of pneumonia just 32 days into his term. The culprit was reportedly his inaugural speech in cold weather and without a coat. Here is another curiosity from ancient Greece. They believed that redheads would become vampires after they died. Maybe that's where the vampire myths originated from. Our last stop is with Napoleon Bonaparte. He wasn't short. In fact, he was taller than the average for his time. The myth of short stature is due to the confusion between English and French measurements. The wall took 2,000 years to build and was the work of several dynasties who did their part. The Nile was stained with blood, as the Bible describes. It turns out that when Ramses II reigned, and because of a drought, a toxic algae appeared that turned the water's blood red. A documented fact that must have impressed the entire country. Switching gears to ancient Rome, it is well known that the Romans were exceptional engineers. But did you know that they used urine to whiten teeth and wash clothes? Now let's travel back in time to the Wild West. In reality, cowboys did not wear cowboy hats, but rather bowler hats. The iconic cowboy hat didn't become popular until the late 19th century. Speaking of fashion, did you know that high heels were initially designed for men? Yes, Persian horsemen first used them to help them secure their feet in the stirrups. Let's move on to the Middle Ages. Contrary to common belief, people back then did not think the Earth was flat. The concept of a spherical Earth was recognized as early as the 6th century BC. Now let's visit the historic Titanic. The legendary ship was never advertised as unsinkable. The myth began after it sank. Moving on to the American Revolution, Paul Revere never shouted, "The British are coming," during his famous midnight ride. This phrase became popular thanks to a poem written years later. Let's delve into some presidential history. George Washington did not have wooden teeth. Their dentures were made of gold, ivory, lead, and animal teeth. The daughter of Marie Antoinette, who was Queen of France for a few hours, the reign of Angoulême only lasted a few minutes, because immediately after the father's abdication, the son abdicated. Did you know that Napoleon's parents, family, and closest friends called him by his peculiar nickname, Nabulio? Speaking of leaders, Cleopatra was not Egyptian. She was Greek and belonged to a lineage of Greek rulers known as the Ptolemaic dynasty. If you think the Salem witch trials targeted women, think again. The men were also accused and executed for witchcraft. Now let's move on to the American Civil War. Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation did not immediately free all slaves. It only applied to areas controlled by the Confederates. Speaking of war, World War I soldiers didn't go into the trenches screaming. They remained silent so as not to alert the enemy. The pyramids were built when mammoths still existed. Woolly mammoths roamed the earth when the Great Pyramid of Giza was built. The Great Wall of China measures 21,000 kilometers. Its exact length is more than 21,000 kilometers, crossing up to 15 different provinces and regions. In ancient Rome, raw pasta did not exist. The Romans didn't know how to boil pasta until the Arabs introduced it during the Middle Ages. Did you know that Napoleon Bonaparte suffered from allurophobia? This fact is quite popular and well known to everyone. Napoleon suffered from a very peculiar phobia. Allurophobia, that is, the phobia of cats. Did you know that Cleopatra was not Egyptian? She was actually of Greek descent and was the last pharaoh of the Ptolemaic kingdom in Egypt. During World War II, red lipstick was considered a morale booster and was one of the few non-rationed cosmetic items in the United States. You know that in the Second World War, 3% of the total world population that existed at that time lost their lives. Did you know that Albert Einstein was offered the presidency of Israel in 1952? He refused, saying that he lacked the natural aptitude and experience in dealing with people. In reality, Christopher Columbus did not discover America. The Vikings, led by Leif Erikson, already had settlements in America 500 years before Columbus's voyage. Windsor Castle in England is the largest and oldest palace in use by a royal family. Did you know that Queen Elizabeth II was a trained mechanic? He learned to repair military trucks during World War II. In ancient Egypt, they venerated many animals, snakes, crocodiles, birds, but probably the most sacred was the cat. Killing one was punishable by death. During the Middle Ages, animals could be tried for crimes, with a lawyer and a sentence if they were found guilty. Thanks for watching the video. Subscribe if you have learned it.